Alrighty, thank you all so much for joining me. My name is Heather Lee, and I will be presenting on hydration for health. So just a little about me to get started. I did graduate from Texas State last year with my bachelor's in nutrition and food. And then I went ahead and started working on my master's as well as completing my dietetic internship through Texas State's program last year. And my last semester, I was the dietetic intern for Wildcats. And then I transitioned into the GA position started this month. And then I'll be graduating with my master's next year in human nutrition, and then hopefully become a dietitian. Um, so just kind of starting off with the learning objectives. By the end of, thank you, Leah. By the end of this presentation, attendees will be able to define hydration, list food sources of hydration, as well as understand the importance between hydration and physical activity. So what is hydration? So just starting with the definition, hydration is the maintenance between the fluid balance between the inputs and the outputs. And it doesn't have to, and it's not going to always be a very equal balance. There will be some fluctuation because as you know, we are not, drinking and eating at the same rate that we are excreting or sweating. So the inputs are the beverages that we consume, and I put beverages because there are different sources of hydration other than water. And then also there are a lot of foods that contain a good amount of water, where we are able to become hydrated through those consumptions. And so the outputs, we excrete water through our fluid, through sweating, exhaling. Whenever we breathe, we are releasing water, as well as elimination in the bathroom. And so just starting with euhydration, that is the normal fluctuation of body fluids. Like I said, we are not consuming and eliminating at the same rate. So there will be some type of fluctuation. It won't be an equal balance. And that is pretty normal for us. That's where we want to be. And so dehydration is where we are losing body water faster than we are replacing it. That's what we want to avoid. We want to make sure that we are in euhydration. Hypohydration is body water deficiency, where it's beyond dehydration. This is where it has been prolonged to where we are now starting to see a little bit of adverse effects of being dehydrated. And so on the opposite end of that spectrum is hyperhydration, where we have an excess of body water and we need to eliminate it before any adverse effects kick in. So here I just want to show a visual of the different causes of dehydration. As we can see from his forehead, he's excessively sweating, experiencing fever. Also, hot climate can be a source of dehydration or a cause, excuse me. Also, if we just don't have access to water or our water is contaminated, and we then will start to experience vomiting or diarrhea. Also, loss of appetite can cause dehydration. If we're not intaking those hydrating foods, we can become a little dehydrated that way, as well as just simply not drinking enough fluids or water, as well as, like I mentioned, diarrhea can cause dehydration. Diarrhea is where we are excreting too quickly without allowing our body to absorb the water that we need. And then also food poisoning can cause dehydration, and then also chlorella, as well as diabetes and kidney disease. If our kidneys are not functioning properly, that can lead to some severe dehydration, excuse me. So here's the good question. How much water do we need? I know there's always, some controversy about, I should be drinking a gallon, I should be drinking half my body weight. So what is it? So the Institute of Medicine established the adequate intake to prevent dehydration at 8 to 9 cups per day for women. For men, they need a little bit more, 12 to 13. Our kids need about half of what we intake. So boys need about 4 to 5, girls need about 3 to 4. And then I also have infants on here. This is something that I really want to highlight because infants up into the age of 4 months do not need any water intake outside of the breast milk that they are consuming or the formula that they are consuming. Breast milk is predominantly made with water, so they are, having adequate intake of water through breastfeeding or, formula. Formula is mixed with the powder and the water, so they are intaking that. It is not until that we begin complementary feeding that infants need supplemental water, because at that point, that's where they are intaking a lot of fiber foods. And so water supports, water helps with absorption of those fiber foods, which we'll get into here in a second. And then here at the bottom, I have in the blue, just what I really want to kind of throw in here is that, as we age, we do need to make sure that we are drinking adequate water, because our thirst sensation declines. And so it becomes difficult for us to know that we are feeling thirsty. Our body, that signal is not working as optimally how it used to, a few years prior. As well as we age, we start to lose muscle mass, and 80% of our muscles are made from water. So if we are losing that muscle mass, we are naturally becoming dehydrated. So we need to make sure that we are staying hydrated as we age. So continue with how much water do we need? We want to make sure that we are having enough, and we also want to make sure that we are not having too much. So kind of what I mentioned earlier about hyperhydration, extended past that, we can see water toxicity, and that is where we consume excess amount of water, where our kidneys are not able to filter quicker than we are, or excuse me, our kidneys are not able to filter the water out just as fast as we are intaking it. So we need to be cautious about how much water we are drinking, especially if we're not in a state of dehydration. Not saying that we need to limit our water, we just need to make sure that we're not over consuming the amount of water that we should be drinking. And so what also happens when we drink too much water, our blood can, water can build up in our blood, and that causes our sodium in the blood to become diluted, and then it causes an electrolyte imbalance, because our sodium levels within our blood should be, pretty balanced with the sodium levels in our cells. So if it's too diluted on the outside, that balance is off, and that can lead to some severe adverse effects with our electrolytes being off. And so here are some of the effects that we start to experience when this happens is, we experience a loss of appetite, we will have some respiratory arrest, convulsions, death may occur, headaches, nausea, muscle cramps, and then it can also affect our vision as well. So how do we know that we are, consuming enough fluids? The best way to check is by just, doing a urine color test. And so as we can see right here, the one on the far left, it says very good. And you can see it's not 100% clear. It doesn't look like water. There is a slight yellow tint to it. And that's what, it should look like. Mostly water, a little bit of, waste coming out, but it's not completely, how it says severe dehydration, almost orange. In the mornings when we wake up, it is pretty normal for us to have fair or light dehydrated urine right here in the middle, because, we just went about, 8 to 10 hours without drinking any fluids. So that's pretty normal. But, after we have our first glass or two, it should look about here. If you, see that your urine is pretty on the dark side throughout the day, that's how you're going to know, okay, I should probably start, drinking some beverages or, eating some of my hydrating foods to hydrate our bodies from, And then we can also assess our hydration through monitoring our sweat. If we notice that we are, having excessive sweating, especially if we're not, especially if we're outside, you can tell, okay, I probably should start drinking some water. So you can just kind of monitor how much, you are sweating. So I know I kind of mentioned, hydrating beverages or hydrating foods, but I'm pretty sure like, Heather, what are those? So here I just want to kind of start with the liquids, or excuse me, the beverages. So here are different sources that we can consume without, we can consume to hydrate ourselves without drinking water. So, we can drink unsweetened iced tea, which is made from water. As long as, we're not adding any extra sugar, it can be a hydrating beverage for us, as well as sparkling water or hot tea. Milk is mostly made out of water. We can also add, these electrolyte packets to our water, such as Liquid IV. I know there's different types, but this one's, pretty popular right now. And then also 100% fruit juice can be a source of hydration for us. So here are also sources of hydration, but food. So a lot of leafy greens are very packed with water, such as romaine, iceberg lettuce, cabbage, which we have right here at the bottom, melons, we have cantaloupe, watermelon, also pineapple. A lot of those juicy fruits are, that juice is mostly water. So we even have plums when they're, at their peak, cucumbers, of course, grapefruit, oranges, strawberries, and so many more. These are just, a few that I want to add to the slide. I didn't have room to add pictures of all the fruits and vegetables, but here's, ones that contain 90% or more of water. So now that we've, kind of discussed, what is hydration, how much fluid or how much water do we need, what are the sources of different hydration, let's go ahead and talk about what it does for us, and why we should be making sure that we are hydrated. So water is one out of the six essential nutrients. The other nutrients are, fat, carbs, protein, vitamins, minerals, and also water. It helps with converting food into energy within the body. It also acts as a vehicle to deliver nutrients and oxygen throughout the body. It helps with protecting and safeguarding our organs. Like I said earlier, it is in the blood. It is actually one of the main constituents of blood. It helps with providing lubrication around our joints, as well as regulating our body temperature. Water can not only help with cooling off our bodies in the hot temperature, but also in the wintertime when it's cold out, it can help raise our body temperature to the temperature that we should be in. So water is very essential for, body regulation temperature regulation. And then lastly, it is necessary for sensory function, just kind of what I was saying. If you overconsume, it can cause blurry vision because water does assist in sensory functions such as hearing or smelling and sight. So I just want to touch on, the importance of hydration and physical activity. Water is very important when we are working out, just for, everyday people, not everyday, just for, people that want to work out as well as athletes. Hydration is important for both of us. So whenever we are experiencing excess, sweating, we want to make sure that we are increasing our fluids. Especially during workouts, water will, taking those sips in between, every few minutes in between will help, sustain energy throughout the workout and keep us hydrated throughout, as well as, especially when we're outdoors and we're working out for a long time, if we're going on a hike, and this type of weather, right now it's been like 100 degrees out. We want to make sure that we are drinking enough water, especially if it's been longer than an hour and a half. With, people that are working out indoors, of course, we want to make sure, we have that typical, how I said earlier, 8 to 9 glasses throughout the day. But if you're going to be working out or going on a hike that day for about, an hour or two, make sure to drink a little bit more than that. And then I also have on here sodium replacement. It's not really required unless we are working out outdoors for an hour and a half or longer. And you'll be able to tell that you need your sodium replaced if you ever experience where you're real sweaty, and then once you get inside and you cool off and you have those like white flakes or that white cast on your forehead. I mean, other than the sunblock, when it gets all dry and flaky, that is the sodium coming out of our pores, or the electrolytes coming out of our pores and then drying up. So that's one way we can tell that we need to replace our sodium. And like I said, if it's not you know, longer than an hour and a half outdoors, normally the food that we consume is providing us with enough sodium to replace those. But if not, the sports drinks, sports drinks, they're not really, from what the researchers showed us, they're not really that adequate at replacing sodium, but they are beneficial for fluid retention after we work out. So it helps our body from releasing those fluids, so we don't become dehydrated. So hydration and weight management. Hydration does play a huge factor in managing our weight, as well as if we are trying to lose weight. So if we drink water, if we drink water before eating, maybe like 20 or 30 minutes, it can temporarily, trick our minds into thinking that we are eating. By whenever the water goes in, it will stretch our stomach. It will decrease the hunger hormone that is being signaled to our brain. And it will, make us think, okay, we're starting to eat. We won't feel that hunger anymore or as strong. And so when we do actually eat, so we don't need to consume as much because our stomach has already begun to stretch, and we will then consume less. So then that will be able to translate into less calories being consumed, and then into, managing our weight to where we're not gaining weight. And, if you are in a caloric deficit, that would, help towards losing weight. Also, we need water helps with weight management when we have fiber, kind of what I was speaking about earlier. Water aids in the absorption of fiber foods, as well as fiber helps with bowel regularity. So as long as we are helping our body absorb that fiber through drinking adequate water, it will thank us and, create bowel regularity, which will then lead to weight management and weight loss. Also with weight management is, really avoiding drinking sugar sweetened beverages such as sodas, sweet tea, sugary juices, juices that are not 100% fruit juice, or drinking sweet tea instead of unsweet tea or hot tea. We want to avoid doing that because they do have extra calories. These drinks typically have, 100 to 200 calories per drink. And so, by us cutting that out, we will see weight reduction. As well as these drinks may act as a diuretic to where we are losing a lot of fluid that can then translate into dehydration. So we just want to make sure that, when we are trying to manage our weight, that we are drinking adequate fluids and, trying to stay away from these. Not saying we need to completely cut them out because, they bring pleasure to us, but just try to cut back at as much as we are consuming them. So then hydration and blood pressure, so they kind of go hand in hand. Like I was saying earlier, water is the main constituent of the blood. And so water helps with maintaining the blood volume. So when we become dehydrated, we don't have a lot of water in our blood, which will then decrease the blood volume. Whenever we have a decrease in blood volume, we will begin to experience low blood pressure. And low blood pressure can cause different adverse effects throughout the body. One being electrolyte imbalance. And so hydration helps with balancing our electrolytes. These electrolytes play a major role in blood pressure. So we want to make sure we are keeping our fluid needs or fluid intake within our recommended intake. Like I said, us women need about 8 to 9. So we want to make sure that we are drinking adequate fluids. Also, water helps with regulating our hormone function, our kidneys. So we need to have adequate water for our kidneys to function properly. Without that, our hormones are going to be off and we will experience severe dehydration. And then just kind of, I kind of just wanted to give some tips on different ways that we are able to increase our hydration. We can, make sure that we are drinking a glass as soon as we wake up in the morning. Before we even get out of bed, going to bed the night before, I'm just putting a glass of water right next to the bed. So as soon as we wake up after being asleep for about 8 to 10 hours, just chug that glass of water and then we can get our day started. And we can also end the same way. We can, just chug a glass of water right before we get in bed to kind of give ourselves some fluids before bed. So when we wake up, we're talking about the color, the urine color test, our urine isn't that dark, dehydrated color. Also, being cautious about whenever we leave the house, always grabbing a reusable water and filling that up. So we always have water with us wherever we go. I like to keep mine next to my banister where I have my keys in my purse. So I know as soon as I grab my purse, okay, I need to fill this water bottle up. That's its home. So just kind of creating that habit can help. Also creating the habit of what I mentioned earlier was, drinking that water 20 to 30 minutes before we eat, just, as a little appetizer a little bit. We can kind of think of it like that, and that can help us, with our hydration. If we do that, that's already 3 glasses throughout the day that we've already had. And if we incorporate this first tip, that's already 5. Now us women, we're already, 2/3 of the way there. And then, for the other few glasses, you can maybe set timers throughout the day. That's a great way to do it. I advise a lot of clients set timers for us to yeah. Yeah, I always have all different water glasses all around my house as well, Leah. Yeah, so we can set timers, every 2 to 3 hours to remind ourselves, drink some water. This 5th tip I got from my mentor. She gave me, in which I was like, wow, that's a great tip, by adding 1/4 of a cup of 100% fruit juice to the water to add flavor, which is, we do that for kids, when you think about, our toddlers, when they want, juice, we, dilute it with ice and water. So why not do that same for us? Because, we need to make sure, we're staying hydrated as well, or, not drinking too much of those sugary drinks. And then lastly, trying infused water. I put a few ideas on here. Strawberry mint. I love lemon and mint. Also cucumber and lemon. So I just kind of wanted to wrap up with, which water is best. I know there's a lot of controversy around alkaline water or demineralized water, or it's also known as reverse osmosis, or tap water. Which one's best? From what the research has, shown us is that all water is water. It doesn't matter, what kind it is, as long as we are drinking water, we are going to be hydrating ourselves. There are, maybe some benefits to certain ones, but, in the aspect of health benefits or hydration status, they all work the same. So just drink water and, flavor it if you need to, or, make some hot tea or, drink some fruit juice with it. As long as we drink the water, I'm happy. And that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming to my hydration presentation. Oh, thank you. You're welcome, Rose. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording. Did it stop? Stop recording. Okay.